Hello, my name is Holiday Johnson, and I'm a proud member of Thespian Troupe 643, here to present to you my scenic design submission of Goosebumps, the musical, written by John McClay and Danny Abosh. Goosebumps, the musical, takes place in Woods Mill Middle School, a fictional middle school in the Goosebumps series. It follows two protagonists that get cast as leads in The Phantom, a play that used to be forbidden in their theater because it led to the death of a student. Then, a mysterious classmate, who is later revealed as the Phantom himself, helps them uncover the tragedy of his death. Throughout the set, we tried to include references to other works of R.L. Stine, and the design also includes the iconic green and purple color scheme of Goosebumps. With this scenic design, one of the main goals was to create a sense of surprise and playfulness, which was very challenging. There's a lever in the script that's supposed to send the characters plummeting down an elevator to the school basement. With our budget and accommodations, we clearly could not accomplish this realistically in the theater, so my set crew worked with the technical director to make something that still looked cool and was an effective scene change. We chose to do a strobing effect with our lighting when the lever on stage was pulled, and during this strobe, our flats would rotate, revealing the basement. Some well-placed fog machines also sold the effect. Something that I researched a lot for this design was media and pop culture of the 90s. I chose to include media from the time period that was also recognizable to younger audiences in modern day. Originally, when I first found out I would be designing the set for Goosebumps, I wanted to go a lot darker and more eerie with the set. When I read the Goosebumps novels as a kid, they were the scariest thing ever. At first, I wanted to pay homage to this feeling, but I realized that it wasn't very friendly to our younger members of the audience, so I decided to create a design that had more of a fun spook factor rather than frightening. Goosebumps the musical was really an excellent way to stretch my limits as a designer. The show was intense, so I dove in headfirst and submerged myself into the design process. This set is littered with 90s memorabilia. From Lisa Frank stickers to Dare posters, my biggest desire was to give my directors and audience members that nostalgic vision of the 90s that Goosebumps invokes for so many. To elevate the visual effects in our show, I collaborated with my makeup and costume heads of design, as well as my technical director, to add UV paint to the stage and actors. This project contains plenty of hidden messages, doodles, common school graffiti, and other installments in the Goosebumps franchise. During the process of designing this set, there were a few things that I had to make sure to do absolutely right. For starters, because of the basement scenery that was required to move on sometimes mid-song, I had to find a way to make the set able to move rapidly and safely. I chose to use double-sided flats placed on top of wheeled platforms with brakes and made sure to anchor any furniture down securely. I also had to make sure that the blacklight paint was detailed but not overwhelming. I chose to use it to highlight grime and dirt on the scenery as well as add visual interest. There was also a lot of blending and shade matching involved to make sure that the blacklight paint was not visible under regular lighting. Again, another thing that was really important to me to research for this show was the time period. I wanted to make sure that any wall decorations, stickers, and technology featured on stage were from before or during the time. I also allowed the crew and cast members to make a few of their own posters for the scenery, as well as write their own messages in blacklight. I loved letting other students add their own creativity to our work. In the basement, you can see that a lot of the decorations are more antique, with interlocking and deteriorated pipes, which is a detail that emphasizes how abandoned the sublayer is aside from its unfriendly host. I wanted items that made the scene feel real and lived in. Here you can see an inspiration board I put together for this design. On the right-hand side, there are swatches of the color scheme and textures, and the rest includes my references for the basement, classroom, lockers, and other features. And here is how they were applied, as well as some close-ups of my favorite parts. One of the miraculous things about this was being capable of staying under budget. My budget for this design was originally $3,500. We had planned on purchasing our own scaffolding, which did not happen, so this was later reduced to $2,200. We only ended up spending $613.05. This was in part thanks to using salvaged materials for things like the pipes on the basement walls, as well as using lumber and old set pieces that we already owned. Even for the framing over the stage, we modified an old storage loft from our workshop. Members of our community were also eager to donate old items that could be repurposed for this set. This was my original floor plan for the design after my directors and I finalized everything. There were a few small tweaks to this, but for the most part, the final product remained true to this blueprint. You can see this here in my model, which features both the default and basement layouts. A few big challenges that I faced with this design boiled down to its sheer size and weight. One of the flats had lockers anchored to it, which made it very heavy, and it had to be moved in a way that was safe. In addition to this, I had never designed a set that was this tall, over 10 foot, so I was completely unsure of what to expect. Thankfully, with some careful anchoring and support placement, the framing over the stage was secure. The scaffolding behind it we borrowed from another school, which was also an interesting challenge because we had never used scaffolding in one of our sets before. Another thing to worry about was dancer safety. There were multiple times where I had to make small adjustments to the layouts of the flats to ensure that even when actors were dancing on stage, they could still be moved with little conflict. To accomplish this, I worked closely with both my directors and our dance choreographer to both adjust dances and set pieces in a way that worked best for everybody involved. I think that the most enjoyable part of this set was how willingly everybody jumped into the blacklight paint. Everybody was so excited and so willing to work together to make it a cohesive element throughout the viewer's experience, whether that be on an actor's costume or signs and decorations in our lobby. I also had a large personal connection to this production because growing up as a child in the 2010s and being lower class, a lot of my things were hand-me-downs or donated. A lot of the stuff that I owned as a kid as far as toys and media go were things my parents would have had. I was raised on VCR players, Light Brights, and Lisa Frank, and living this nostalgia through my design gives it a special place in my heart, and I will always be so grateful for the opportunity to make this a reality. Lastly, we finished the set with a little bit of extra time on our hands, so my directors and I decided to build 2 different photo booths that looked like other titles in the Goosebumps series, including Night of the Living Dummy and Say Cheese and Die. This was so much fun, and it was an excellent opportunity to get people engaged and excited to see the show. We also made a banner with cast and crew handprints in blacklight paint, tying everyone together and adding a sentimental touch to the production. Lastly, thank you for your time in viewing my submission, and most of all, I hope you enjoyed it.